guys, all of you. Hi, everyone. Okay, I'm just gonna add our special guest for the evening today.
Hi,
Oh, hello. Hi.
how
Oh
are
my
you?
god. Just give me a moment, please.
Yeah, take your time.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you? You look so
Very well.
lovely.
Thank you. You too. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. It was a hectic Saturday, but loving the hustle.
Yeah, and you also have classes in the
Yeah,
evening after this?
I did.
Yeah. Masters is just like crazy like that. It's just,
Even undergrad is like entire IIM, all the courses are super hectic because we generally don't have classes on weekends, but sometimes they have to manage a lot of things, so they schedule. Sometimes we even have classes on Sundays. Like I have attended classes on
oh
Sundays.
my God. Oh my God. So I graduated out of B school 10 years ago now.
Okay.
Um, at that time, it was not this crazy. So I was studying at LBS. We used to have classes from Monday to Thursday,
Yeah.
and Friday used to be, Thursday also used to be like a
Yeah.
sundowners kind of thing. And then
Yeah.
Friday just used to be do your own thing, go find a job. So
Yeah.
I feel
LBS
like
is super fun. So you were in London. How was London?
it was really nice.
Is
Amazing.
it
At
fun
that
to go
point, though, I
abroad?
was sorry.
Is it? Would you suggest people to go abroad? Like, is it fun? There's a lot of misconception about it. I've heard.
See, it's fun to study.
Yeah.
But of course, like UK is one of the most expensive places to stay to study.
Yeah.
And I just feel like right now, the
The market
scenario is
is.
really
Yeah.
difficult. Yeah. I mean, like just being very realistic about the job market, and especially for us as Indians, very competitive world. Every country is sort of being very anti-immigration. So I worked in London for a very short bit. I mostly worked in Dubai and Singapore. So these are two markets that I think I can talk very comfortably. I've spent enough time.
Right.
Dubai is still like one of the best markets. So if I recommend anyone who's picking up a job, I always say that's like the best place you can be, especially when you're
Yeah.
starting out your career. I feel like if one cares about like being in a metropolitan city, cares about being in a place where there are a lot of different cultures, also just really like saving up, paying off student
Correct.
loans and things like that.
Yeah.
One, Dubai is typically like the most expensive cost center for most
Yeah.
organizations, which in turn means that you get paid really well. Two, there's no tax. Three, it's as desi as can be. I've had friends who say, their mom will ask me, what is your favorite city in India? They'll say Dubai. So it's practically like another extension of
Yeah.
India. So West, it's really, really nice.
Indians are leading everywhere. I mean, we have the best minds. I feel like we are actually leading, and therefore countries are trying to push us outside.
I agree. I agree. But I think that's what is different about Dubai, that is the one city that truly respects Indian talent.
Correct.
Even in my time in Singapore, I think over a span of almost 5 years, I saw a slight transition
Yeah.
in how they became very like, no, no, now we have this system in place to not really employ Indians.
Makes
So yeah, it's becoming tricky. So if somebody wants to study outside, sure, go for it. But like be very open to the fact that वहाँ पे job नहीं मिलेगी. And
Correct.
then if there's someone who's picking up a student loan, then you need to come back to India and really
Yeah.
be able to pay that.
But I feel like it's a blessing in disguise in the sense that now people are motivated to do more startups and start their own thing in India. Especially once you go out and you get to that lifestyle, people get inspired to mimic it in India and make lifestyle better here. So I think overall it's a good trend. Maybe right now people would be struggling with jobs, but they would make India grow better so that people don't have to move out and just like make a hub here, which is better. So I think it's a good thing in a subtle way.
Completely agree. And I think India as a market is also growing so much, right? We
So
are
much.
early adopters globally for any
Yeah.
kind of tech, any kind of consumer products. There are so many founders that I meet who are like innovating the smallest to the biggest of things.
I know.
So it's just like
Especially
really
with that,
cool.
yeah, health products. Like I love that you can see these yoga bars and everything on the shelves now because
Yeah,
I'm doing this 75 hard and I can't eat sugar. And I can't eat fried food. So it's become like a task to snack because half the times I miss meals and then I go to the store and I'm so thankful that somebody invented a protein bar so that I can pick up something and actually fill my stomach. It's a
yeah,
good
yeah.
thing.
I agree. I think guilt-free eating is like a big, big market right now, and
Yeah.
everybody is picking up again like chocolates to popcorn to
Yeah.
you name it, and you have like something healthy in that
Yeah, and
category. So it's
Indians
really
love
cool.
to munch. Like we can't get munching out of our
Very
system because
true.
we've been taught to do it since the childhood. So it's good that they're transitioning into a healthier format.
I
Super fun.
agree. I agree.
Yeah,
Even when I was building for the petite market, one option was to stay back in Singapore and build for also, right? Because
yeah,
even there are a lot of Indians, and moreover, there are a lot of Asians, and Asians by virtue of like how we are built are
yeah.
shorter. But then I
Correct.
was just like, listen, if I come back to India and I build for the market here, one, that is the market that I feel at heart I should build for, and
Yeah,
two, even if I capture like 10% of the market, it's still
correct.
sizable.
Exactly, and I think that's what I've been talking about. That people misunderstand that there is not enough market for it. I think I talked about in a video also of Farooq Gulati that people think, oh, there's no market in it for India. That's the best way, because there's always enough people to experiment with it.
Agreed.
You just need to teach the people that there is a concept and do it. And with sizable clothing, there are a lot of European and American brands who are just for like tall sized people. If you go there, you can't fit into it, and they are using this concept. But Indians just like founders hesitate to do something in niche, but you can always like start from a niche, make a community, and then expand. And that's like the best way to do it, because it's easier to crack and you know which community you are working for. So it's much easier to get the insights from it.
Yep. And
Lovely
the
to see you
community.
doing, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the community also gives you a lot of very valid feedback. So I just feel like for a lot of people today, they build a brand and then they're like, "Acha, hame community bhi banana hai." But I'm just like, that's the wrong playbook. Don't build
Exactly.
a community for the sake of making a community,
Build a
because
community.
they will know from the get-go ki you are trying to be something that they don't want, or they don't feel loyal towards, or they don't feel connected
Yeah.
with, right? So it has to
And
be a
this
community.
whole causation and correlation of like starting a brand and building a community is so flawed. Like it's a
Exactly.
marketing gimmick they have been buying. You identify a community, you identify a problem, you build a brand on it, and you brand that problem, and that's how communities grow. You can't like, you know, brainwash people into building a community. Like a community is not something that's a concept. It's a thing that exists. You utilize it, and a lot of brands don't take it that way. That's what I was discussing with one of my professors, that there are so many clothing brands coming up, and like everybody wants to be Supreme, or everybody wants to build a streetwear community, but you can't do it just by thinking. Even if you copy everything that original brand has done, you still can't do it, because they understand the community and they started with a group of people who were similar, picked up on the habits, identified the problems, and then created a place which resonates with them. You can't do it the other way around.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think everybody should understand that.
I agree. And like for me, Anna, it was very interesting. So just the introduction to the world of Instagram was very recent. Ever since I started building Rare Reach is when I got the app on my phone and I started creating some content on it, right? And somebody said to me once, "Oh, I love what you're doing. I'm going to permanent follow you." And I was just like, "Sorry, you're going to have to like explain this to me. What do you mean by permanent follow?" She's like, yeah, sure. So basically, when I follow someone, I follow them for a few days, and then if I get bored, then I like unfollow them. But you, I'm going to follow forever. I was like, oh, okay. So that also in a way is the consumer mindset today, right? Like they can very quickly tell.
That's true to me also. I mean, I don't think it happens, but I don't think anybody has named it as a permanent follow yet.
Yeah.
But it's a good insight. It does happen. It does happen.
It's a thing, yeah. So like, if you really want to be with the customers through a longer LTV, through like their journey of understanding your brand and being loyal to you, despite, and every brand makes mistakes, especially like us as small brands, we sometimes make mistakes. So if you want the customer to be like a little bit like, no, I'll forgive this brand, I'll be with you, and I'll support you, and I'll really do like a word of mouth for you. That'll only happen when you're just authentic. So if you're inauthentic in any way, they can tell very quickly.
I know, and I mean that's what I always believe in. Like, fail faster. As soon as you fail more, the more experiment you're doing, and that's when you crack. That's when the eureka moment happens. If you're not even trying, if you're so scared of making mistakes, like a lot of brands have started coming to me now, and when I script, they're like, "Oh no, this is too risky, and you can't say that." And I'm like, that is what is going to catch attention. If I just say something which is going to please everyone, I might make mistakes sometime, but if I'm just going to be for everyone, then nobody's going to want me. Like, nobody's going to listen to something that's generic and pleasing them. They want to hear something which is a different perspective, which is a sometimes controversial opinion, and you don't have to conform to one message which is applicable to all. The moment you say you want to build a community, or you want to stand for a particular group of people, then you stand for the particular group of people and say which is for them, not just to please everyone. Like, that's how you grow that community. And I always believe that lead with your own voice. Like, say what you think. Whoever resonates with you will stick with you. If you say something which is just to please everyone, then eventually that permanent follow thing happens. People leave, because you will someday come to your authentic self, say something, slip off, and then people will unfollow you because you contradicted yourself only. So it's always better to just say your own story, say your own thing. If people don't like it, that's okay.
And you're not building for everyone. Like, if you are building for everyone, that means you're sorry, but there's something terribly wrong.
And you can't build for everyone.
You can't build for you shouldn't be. That is not a market. Like, everyone is never a market for any product or any service for that matter.
Yeah, there is this concept. I think a lot of people would know that it always starts with early adopters. It's a very popular concept. It starts with early adopters, and these are the people who are maniacs about the concepts you're doing. So these are the people who religiously use your product and give you very core feedback so that you can build better on it, and that's how you find a market product fit. And then early adopters come in, and then like more people come in, and then there are laggards who have to eventually,
because the trend that is upwards and everybody's doing it, will follow.
So the moment you have corrected the product by understanding the initial insights you get from the people who are crazy about your product, which are even a few, then you are able to create something which actually has a utility, and then it becomes a system for people to like they can't ignore it. So then it becomes a hype, and then everybody accepts it, and everybody starts saying good things about it. So that's the graph it follows. You can't like start with everybody accepting your technology or whatever, and then it just declines from right there. So it's better to always create for a small group of people and work with them, and then go upwards with it. That's what I believe.
And no, I agree with that too. I call it the first 100 fans.
Yeah, correct.
The first 100 fans who love you, who believe in you. If you have 100 fans, you will get 10,000 fans.
Correct.
Get the 100 fans first and build just for those 100 people, and be and build one product. Don't build 20 things, right?
Yeah.
Maybe out of 8 products that you launch, one will work, and that's okay. That is also a big deal.
Exactly.
Get that one product right. Yeah.
Starting is I started this company last year, which was called Just Start. And the whole concept and idea behind it, it failed. But I learned a lot of things, and I connected to the best people from it. And that's what I always, like, the core understanding of it was that you don't do all the research and you don't lag behind and just, researching. All the startup founders are like, well, I'm researching for 6 months and then I'm going to start something and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. That's not how it works. Just start. The moment you start doing it, that's when you're actually going to be practically coming along with obstacles that are the real things, and then you solve them. If you think in your head this is a problem, it's delusional. Like, you're not solving a real problem. Maybe people in the real life won't actually have it because your perspective is limited to the amount of people you're surrounded with. But those are not entirely your customers. So to get out in the world is the first step, and that's with content also. That a lot of people have started coming to me and they ask like, oh, how do I grow? What do I do? I'm researching, I'm thinking what should be my niche. You can't decide your niche until you've started.
Agreed.
Even I didn't know what my niche was. I just started it and I took it as a job. The day I started, I was like, I am going to do it as a job, because if I give so much of myself in internships or jobs that take so much from me and like pin nuggets in another sense, then why can't I just do it for myself? Like, why can't I put that much amount of time, effort and hard work and just push myself a little that, okay, every day I'm going to improve something and experiment with something new and take it as a job, even though it's not a real thing at the moment and I have 0 followers. And that's how it builds. It's the mindset that you take, that, okay, this is something real, it's serious, and then you seriously work on it. So I think that's what helped me so far.
No, fantastic. I completely agree. And I think there are so many people who are joining us today who would love for you to unpack for us how your journey has been. So just a very quick introduction, guys, for everyone who's joining. We have Yana with us. She's a student at IIM Jammu, and, I think she's had touchwood a fantastic journey with just building content so far. She's grown very quickly. And she was just sharing, like just starting out with a content creation journey and very quickly being able to reach so many people, create the kind of impact that she is. And a lot of it comes from the fact that it embeds marketing, it embeds insights, it embeds also a lot of storytelling. But the baseline is authenticity. I also love, Yana, the fact that you're very inspired by your mom. And I think the values of just being very graceful, just being very honest, truthful, and helpful to people is how I think you carry along, whether it's content creation or whether it's your professional journey doing your masters. So congratulations. I think always onwards and upwards, and very excited to chat with you. Thank you for taking the time. I know it's just between classes. We'll try and wrap well in time, so you have like a little bit of a bio break before you go into your 8 to 9. But yeah, I think, just getting back to what you were saying, you started with content creation. Now I understand also looking at that as something that is part of your professional journey. You've also been a student at IIM, but take us back to how you started. Why did you decide to do your master's at IIM? How did you start with content creation in that process?
So I'm exactly not doing my master's yet. I'm doing a course which is an integrated program. So it's like my undergrad and master's together combined. That at an IIM. And this is like one of the newer programs. Like, some of the IIMs have been doing it for 10 years, but this is one of the booming programs they have started, because they have understood that you don't need to come to master's if you're core into management. You can start it just after your school as well. So what we do is much more comprehensive, because what they try to do is they try to put a lot of different disciplines together. Like, we study all the core concepts, all the core subjects, but we also study theater, we also study psychology, we also study visual arts, we also study sociology, and all of these things are like our core courses, because and that has helped me a lot in content and marketing as well, because you understand how different dynamics of life come together. Because at the end of the day, especially if it's HR or marketing or brand building, it's people. You're dealing with real people. So the more you understand about consumer psychology, the more you understand about how societies are built, how people believe in systems, you're able to apply it into marketing. You're able to apply it to connect with people, understand teams, manage people better. And I think that has been a great journey so far. With content, I started, so a lot of people don't know this, but I actually started with YouTube last year. And I did it just for fun. Like, I saw this YouTuber who created a video every day for 600 days. Every day. He posted every day. And now he has this really big company of sneakers, which is in Bombay. And I was just really inspired. I thought that, oh, I don't want my college to become like to college to consume me entirely. I want to do something of my own also, to build discipline, that I'm something outside my college, because everybody's doing college. Everybody's attending 12 hours of classes or 6 hours of classes or 5 hours of classes. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to come back from my classes and I'm going to post a single video every day. And that's how I started with YouTube. But it was just me blabbering anything or like vlogging my day. And that's how I started building confidence through it, putting myself in front of camera. And that was short-lived, because then I started my company, so I had to run through it. But that was a great experience to understand how the market works, how to put myself into the camera. And then 32 days ago, I decided that, okay, I want to get into content again now. And I wasn't able to, because a lot of other things were happening. I had certain other exams and like all of these things. College started consuming me again. So I was like, I need a breakthrough again. And this time, let me experiment with another platform. So, and then that's what I thought, that I'm going to take it as a job. This time I'm going to do it very seriously, and I'm going to do it more from a perspective of marketing, of like how I'm able to crack it in terms of what speaks to people and in terms of how can I add value. And I believe that fundamentally marketing remains same always, just the channel changes. So how do I utilize those fundamental core principles and apply it to something which is a newer channel, which is booming at the moment? So this is like the right time to utilize it. So that's how I started creating content. And initially I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea what was my niche. If you would go look at my videos, like which are the first week of me doing, it was me doing something new every day. Sometimes I'm sitting in front of the camera talking, or I'm trying to record a vlog in public, and the whole vlog is that I'm not able to record in public. And then there were voiceover videos and all of this, and that just made me realize that, okay, you know what, it's okay, just experiment. Even if people are watching, people are not watching, it's fine. You get comfortable with it. And then there was one point which striked, where I created something. I thought that, okay, maybe creating a longer video, people won't react to it. But I said, whatever, this is something I want to share to the world, and I want to sit down and talk about it. And that was the video which got the most engagement so far. So I hit the sweet spot. I was like, okay, this is what I like doing. And now people are responding to it. So good. Now we take it from here and try to build on this.
Lovely. So basically, I think it just started with how it should start, which is just begin with something.
Yes, just start. Just start. That's it. That's all you got to do. And you eventually figure out a niche where you understand what is working for people and what is working for you also. So both the parties enjoy it equally.
Fantastic. So to everyone who's trying to understand, अरे आपने 0 to 70K कैसे crack किया? I think the first step was कि उन्होंने शुरुआत की. She took the courage and she experimented. She did not stick to one thing saying मैं यही करूँगी, मैं तो ऐसे content. Maybe it was a very broad theme, उसी theme में खेल रहे थे. But again, I think there was a lot of experimentation happening there with how you were communicating. And that's really what you should do initially. Even I feel you shouldn't like stick to one thing and say मैं ऐसे ही content create करूँगी. You can always have principles and say मैं ये नहीं करूँगी, मैं वो नहीं करूँगी. I'm not going to say these things. But it's always good to just keep on trying out new things and then figuring out what's working for your audience. And even I feel like even if you reach 100K for that matter, there's no harm in trying out new things.
Correct. And I'm still experimenting a lot. I see my videos. Sometimes it's in the middle, it started coming to me that, oh, I need to do the same thing because numbers. But then I was like, no, I'm still growing. Let me just experiment. Maybe people will react to it. Maybe I'll learn something. That's okay. Just let me navigate through it. And it's very important for content creators to also pivot, because after a point, even I'll get bored of it, and even people will get bored of it.
Very true.
So
very
keeping
true.
the same principles, but like pivoting in directions where it's fun for me and fun for them. That's how it is sustainable. Otherwise, it'll fall out.
Fantastic. And then there are so many people that I'm seeing who are asking, what is the exam that you gave to get into IIM, and what was the process like getting into the program that you're studying right now?
So there are 2 ways you can get in, and there are 4 programs you can get in. I'll talk about as much as like all of them as much as possible. So for getting in your undergrad, you crack an exam called GIPMAT or IPMAT for other exams, and it is actually equally difficult to CAT. It's just a different cohort to people. It's a little lower on the side of LRDI. But if you actually calculate the percentage of people who get selected, because the seats of this program is really low, and the IIMs who give it is also really low, so it actually becomes more competitive than the other ones, right? And IIMs have the least acceptance rate compared to all the global universities also, because thank you to our crazy population. Yeah, but that's the way you get in through your undergrad, and CAT is for MBA, and through CAT also you get into other programs like HHM, and this is how it works. So similar preparation for both the exams. The course is similar only. It's just there are certain things that the exams work differently. In IPMAT, the way in the order in which the sections come is just a little different, and there are certain things which are weighted more. So your school topics are weighted a little more, and then in CAT, your LRDI and your logical reasoning and critical thinking becomes a little slightly harder. So that's how you crack. But everything else is pretty similar.
Okay, okay. So thanks for sharing that. So I think you also mentioned about how you're experimenting with content, and YouTube was one start. Now it's Instagram. I just saw somebody who was commenting on how, hey, you have pimples, hey, you have this kind of skin, so on and so forth, right? So as
Yeah.
content creators, I think somehow it becomes very easy for people to comment on us.
Yeah.
What has your experience been? And I'm still older, so hopefully I have thicker skin. You're still, like when we get
Yeah.
into college, we're still building our personality, we're still building our confidence,
Yeah.
putting yourself out there. There's both sides of the story. As much as there's appreciation, there are people who are viewing our content, there's also a lot of people who are judging us. So how do you feel this journey has helped with your confidence, with projecting your authentic selves?
Yeah. So last year when I started with it, when it was the first time of me putting myself out there, I got really bad acne. Like I had to consult a dermat. I got extremely bad acne, and there were marks and all of it. And it becomes very unsustainable to put makeup on every day, especially when you're juggling with classes. Like I am not a person who can do it. And when I started this last month, this was the one thing that I swore by, that no matter how I'm looking, I am going to put a video out every day. And if you actually go and look back at some of the videos, I have greasy hair, or like I'm not in my best shape, or like the best, most presentable self, but I'm still sitting and talking, because I am lying to you if I am telling you that, oh, this is all made up how I look being a B school student. It's extremely hectic. We don't get time so much to look perfect all the time. So if I'm trying to share something as a journey of like what my college life is, then I'm lying to you if I'm like putting up a face full of makeup every day and sitting down and trying to
Very
look perfect.
true.
I don't look perfect every day. And if you find value through my content, I'm not a beauty influencer, right? So I am somebody who's juggling college and juggling this. So that's the message I'm giving, that this is how it actually looks. This is how you're going to actually look when you come here. Sometimes you don't get time to sleep. Not sometimes, mostly you have no sleep when you're in a B school, especially like the top B schools of the country. You don't have time to sleep. And naturally, when you're not able to take care of your body as much as you take care of it when you're back home in comfort, your body will react to it. So you'll have acne, you will have hair loss problems, you will have body problems, you'll have weight problems. And that is all just a part of it. So I would always encourage to work on yourself as much as you could, but also not to beat yourself up about it. Like if you want to watch me and if you get real value out of what I'm talking and what knowledge I'm sharing, then you'll watch me regardless. I'm not trying to, entertain you with my beauty, because that's not the purpose of my channel. So I'm okay with putting myself however I look every day.
Fantastic. That's how I hope every girl feels, because I feel like a lot of girls draw their confidence from their height, from their looks, but we are so much more beyond that.
Yeah.
Right? And of course, I'm not saying we don't have to be presentable. When we all go to meetings, when we all go to presentations, we're all looking our professional best selves.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that every day is just like, oh, I have to dress up for someone else, or I have to look a certain way, and that only draws my confidence in, right?
That is very correct, yes.
Okay, so girls, if you're listening in, especially young girls who are asking for career advice, who are asking how the IIM program is, also know कि हर time हमें ऐसा नहीं है कि हम ऐसे दिखते हैं तभी हम successful होंगे. कोई relation नहीं है इन दो बातों का. हम जैसे भी दिखते हैं, हम अपनी hard work जो हम बोलते हैं, हमें जितनी knowledge है, that is also a part of our personality, and if you're able to hone that, then you are the right fit for the job. That's what's most important. Lovely. So I think we spoke about how your journey has been. It's a very vulnerable journey, putting ourselves out there. You also spoke about acne. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
In my experience, Yana, I've spoken to women of all ages now. There are young girls who are just about to enter college. Then there are girls who are 12-year-olds. Then there are women who are older than me. Everybody has spoken about how sometime, someplace, somebody in the family, somebody in the friend circle, a colleague has commented on their bodies, right? And unfortunately, some of those comments have stayed. I don't wear white because, oh, my skin tone is like this, and somebody said, "Tupe white acha nahi lagta." So, growing up, how has your journey been? How comfortable have you been with the way that you look? Have you had any kind of things that you felt, yaar, ye aisa hona chahiye tha, wo aisa hona chahiye tha? And now that you're this mature, emotionally intelligent girl who's speaking from a space of so much of confidence, what took you to this space? Because I know aisa nahi hai ki we wake up suddenly and we are confident one day. It takes work, it takes a lot of love, and like you said, you consciously have to tell yourself, no, I'm not going to beat myself down for this. So it's hard work.
First of all, thank you for saying such nice things about me. I've had my days. I've had terrible days. And in fact, when I was in school, that time I wanted to start YouTube. And I used to have this best friend who also kind of started a channel. And then I was like, oh, I also want to like go out and sit and like talk about, I used to watch those Vogue videos where they're talking about like 73 questions. I wanted to do it. But yeah, it used to be so lovely. But then Somewhere I got bullied into, because during COVID I gained a little bit of chub, I gained a little bit of weight, and it was new to me also because I've never handled that kind of criticism. And I was suddenly, just after COVID, everybody was meeting, so I started getting those comments that, oh, you should lose some weight, or you should like eat healthier, or like work out. And it's so easy to say it, but it's not always sustainable. Right? You can't, you could say, oh, go work out, but it takes a discipline to do it, and it's so much more funnier when people who don't do it themselves say it to you.
Yeah.
And I used to beat myself up about it, and then I did not start a YouTube channel at that point of time, because I was like, oh, I'm not pretty enough, or I'm not like the the stereotypical kind of person who should be in front of a camera, and I did not start. And that's what I think drove the inspiration later, that when I started seeing all of these people on the internet who are from different colors, different body types, different heights, doing all of this and getting so successful, and I was like, okay, don't listen to people around you. They have a very limited perspective, and it's so easy to just throw a comment to anybody outside. And that's what made me learn also that you also be mindful of saying things to other people. Sometimes we're just so wired with our community that we pass certain comments because they feel usual, because that's how Indian society is sometimes has trained you. You've been hearing it from your parents or your families or anybody. It used to be so much more common, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, to just throw a comment about somebody's weight or somebody's color, and even brands used to endorse it. But now you become conscious of it. The moment you realize that how it feels when somebody else says it to you, you don't say it to somebody else. I think that's the main thing that we should focus on as an individual, that first, don't take it to yourself, don't take it to your heart, and don't say it to anybody else also. Be conscious of the words you're saying to anyone, and be conscious of what you're projecting towards them. And it's very easy to say it doesn't matter how people look or something. If you're in a commercial space and you get paid for it, if I get paid for it and somebody says I have to work out 3 hours a day, I will happily do it because it's my job. So if I'm a supermodel and I'm working out 3 hours a day and I'm eating a keto diet, that's okay. I don't shame you either, because that's your job. You get paid for it, you go do it. But if I'm not in the same space, if I have 8 hours of classes every day, I can't beat myself up about it because I don't have the same lifestyle as you, and it's not paying me the same. So it comes from this space of like accepting yourself, and then also just inherently believing in the idea of you can choose the people you want to be with. Like, don't try to fit in with everybody else. Life is so big. Like, there are 8 billion people. You could just go out and find new people who will find you beautiful, or who will find something about you that they find charming, which you actually thought was something you're insecure about. Like, you asked me, I used to think I was square face, and that's not how, these people on the TV look like, or they had a very sharp face, or they had a sharp jaw, and I used to be insecure about it. And then I met somebody who was like, oh, I love your square face. That's what I love about it. And I was like, oh, maybe that's my specialty. Maybe that's what makes me different. And there are people who I respect who like me for that thing. So it's just go out and meet new people. Like, don't leave people who don't talk good to you. And you talk good to you. That's more important.
I'm so glad you said that, because I've had so many people who come to me and they're like, there's this friend who's a very close friend, and they constantly berate me for my height, and they constantly make fun of me, and I feel really bad, and I cry sometimes, and I've told them a few times, hey, please don't talk to me like that or whatever, and I want to come back at them, and I'm always like, listen, if your friends after a point are not understanding boundaries, then you need to be firm. And if you're being firm, and even despite that, they're not understanding that this is hurting you and it's beyond a joke, right? There's a boundary. If they're crossing those boundaries again and again, then perhaps it's time that you rethink this friendship. And then they're just like, no, they're my friend. What if they will feel bad? But I'm like, you're feeling bad throughout. Why are you not putting yourself into this picture, also giving yourself due importance? So I don't really think there is any harm in drawing boundaries, right? And if beyond a point you don't feel celebrated, you don't feel happy,
you leave.
You leave. There is no harm. You'll find better people, but you'll only find them if you have the courage to draw those boundaries for yourselves.
Exactly. And imagine choosing somebody who finds it okay to break you down, tear you down every day, even if you have told them that it hurts you.
Exactly.
Rather than choosing yourself. Like, if you don't love yourself the same way you love other people, then you are giving them the permission to break you down. And that's on you. That's not on them. After a point, it's not on them. So, and people, to be fair, majority of the people you meet in your life are temporary. So it's always good to cherish the time you're having with them. But the moment you need to step out. That's how you grow. If you stay with the same people, then you also start believing that you have a flaw. And it's all in the mind. All your struggles and all your flaws are in the mind. Maybe somebody else would think a different way. So just leave. Walk out.
Yeah. So for everyone who's listening in, please, I think if you are in such a friendship, even the workspace, if you have someone who's commenting on you about anything and you don't like it, as I think, especially as women, it's very hard for us to say no. and it's very hard for us to draw boundaries, but hopefully you get that courage within you and you feel that there is nothing wrong in doing that. We draw our own boundaries, and even if we are by ourselves, we are not weird people, we are not strange. हमें ये होता है ना, like whenever I one thing that I learned staying outside of India was it's okay if you're by yourself at a coffee shop. It's okay if you're by yourself at the library, right? यहाँ पे हमेशा मुझे बहुत conscious feel होता था कि यार मैं अकेले हूँ, मेरे कोई friends नहीं है, लोगों को कैसा लगेगा. But I think that fear I lost, and now I see so many people who are just enjoying their own company, and that's totally fine. This fear is sometimes what really drives us. We will become the odd one out. We'll become the less accepted person.
Correct. And there's this misconception also that, oh, it's not easy. How can you say that? Yeah, it's not easy. I'm not saying you'll not go through a heartbreak by dealing with people. I'm not saying that it won't be tough psychologically, because it's habitual. You're habitual to being with those people, believing in the same things they think about. You're going to rethink it. But that's the part where you grow. You can't grow in comfort. You grow when you put yourself into situations which feel right but are also hard. And that's how you become better, right? And I'm so glad you talked about being by yourself, because I am somebody who loves my own company. Like, I am happy to eat alone. I love it because it allows you to just think outside of your periphery or like the people you're hanging out with. It allows you to explore like I do this thing where I just sit down for 20 minutes without anything, just like stare at a wall and think, because it makes you think so much about your life and put things into perspective. You have so many tabs in your mind just open at all times, and you're not addressing them. So you're constantly having anxiety because there are so many things going in the back of your mind, and you're engaging with people who are eating you out. So why don't you spend time with yourself, close the tabs, figure your life out, and then you automatically make a plan where it's about your growth. And when you try to walk on the path of your growth, you meet the right people, you meet better people. So if you don't do that, you're hindering yourself from giving you space to even make for the newer people who would suit you more, would be better for you, by just staying with everybody who's already there. So
I'm so glad you do that. That's amazing. I think even the fact that we sometimes just remove devices out of, like, we can't stand in a lift without having to look at our device, right? It's just like lift mein hai, 20 seconds is uncomfortable. It's not like I have to stare at someone or like make eye contact. I just have to be, but even that is uncomfortable for us. So just the fact that we find something within us and that holds us strong, that will take us forward in these scenarios also.
Correct. And also solo traveling really helps. Like I've recently started doing it, really helps. The moment you put yourself out there with like a trip where you're at a company, you spent money, you're going to go to places. So like it pushes you to like spend time with yourself, maybe meditate, talk to new people, talk to strangers. And talking to strangers is very therapeutic. Like anybody who's, contemplating if they should go or not, please go. It's life changing.
I agree. You just find yourself in a very different context. And sometimes you will be in a problem, right? And you will not have people around you, and you will solve that problem. And when you look back, you're just like, man, I did this myself.
Exactly.
So it's a pretty cool achievement also.
Yeah, it is. And that's what self-exploration is, right? That you become self-aware by talking to yourself. So you do that when you declutter your mind from the comfortable environments you're in. And that travel does it really nicely, because it's a good aesthetic, good environment, good company. If no company, then you're just like staring at a good scenery. It's always fun.
Fantastic. Okay, so now I have a lot of people who are actually asking me, how do you feel about IPM? Do you feel like it's worth it? Or do you feel like it would have been better if you went through CAT, later did your MBA from there? So what do you have to say about the program that you're doing versus choosing to do an MBA at a later point in time?
Okay, so here's the thing. I was a science student in my high school. But I always was told that I'm a people's person, and I did not know what that meant at that time. But because I was always like into math, and I was always like that girl who's doing science, and my parents are professors, so I was always that girl who's like, oh, engineer or doctor, that's what you're going to do. But I started figuring out that management is the thing that calls me, right? So I never look at opportunities or places in a way that, like, a lot of people look at IIMs as placements, which is fair, rational. But I always look at where is a place where you'll thrive, because placement is not the only channel to make it into life. The way to make it into life is by mastering what you're good at, and an environment is also a factor of it. So I've talked about it multiple times on my channel also, that you and I, be it IPM or in fact CAT also, or be it from any IIM or B school, it's only worth it if that place gives you something more than just placements. So what IIM gives you is a lot of network, a lot of connections, and what has worked for me is, when you come into a space which is this rigorous, you go through such toxic and hard times that you have to like stand for yourself and figure out that, oh, this is what works for me and this is where I draw the boundary. So somewhere, if you're not put in that amount of stress, you would never be able to reach that position at such a young age. So I think that's what IPM does really well. Our professors tell us, like, I remember the first time we had an exam and it was getting really hectic, and my chairperson was like, "Are you feeling stressed?" And we were like, "Yes sir, yes sir." And he was like, "Good, that was the motive. That's how corporates are. We want to make you feel stressed. We want to push you to the edge." And that is what we're taught in an IIM. It's not about what we're going to get at the end. It's about how do you take up yourself to the full potential and see how you can navigate through hardships. So that is one, and that is a very philosophical mindset answer, if you would say, but it has changed my life personally. Like, it has changed my confidence, it has changed my network. I don't think if it wasn't for the tag, that I would have been able to network with so many amazing people that I have, because Indians do care about it. So that's what I talk about in the marketing thing also, that brands, the moment you borrow equity from brands, it helps. So think of it as that way, that it's opening multiple channels for you. If you're going to linearly look at it, then you're actually doing a disservice to yourself, because even you don't know just after getting school that, oh, this is what you want to make in life, or this is what you want to do in life. Nobody does. People at 26 take up job in McKinsey and then quit because they're not able to keep up with it. So that is A. B, in terms of, like, if you're monetarily not as stable and you're considering that, oh, is it okay to pay so much of fees, you can always take a loan. A lot of us take a loan, and the rates are pretty reasonable, and you can pay it off after getting a job. Like, the deals is
moratorium period is quite long.
It's quite long, and it's doable. It's very, very doable, and there's no collateral requirement in it. So a lot of people do it. And if you think only rich people come to IIM, that's a misconception. Just crack the exam and figure it out. Like, you're able to pay it off. It's not that big of a deal. But if you feel like you don't want to spend so much in undergrad, then go to another college. Like, it's not like your life's going to get ruined if you don't come here, or it's going to become something amazing if you come here. It's you who make opportunities for yourself. It's you who don't make your entire life your college, and try to find out venues that you can use the college as a way to get there. Like, that's what I always say to people. So I agree. I hope that helps anybody.
No, absolutely. I can just say from my own experience also that you never really know where you end up, what you end up doing, right? So any place that opens you up to a broad variety of opportunities is just the right place for you. So just, I think whatever career decisions you're making ever, I think rather than being conservative, if there's something that really challenges you, especially in the early stages of your career, where if on the first day you feel like mujhe sab aata hai, actually you're in the wrong place. Correct. You should be in a place that makes you uncomfortable. You should be in a place where you feel like, man, I don't know anything around here. That's how you will, and you will learn, right? ऐसा कुछ हम rockets तो नहीं ही बनाएंगे, most of us. So we will figure our way out. I don't think we're doing like something that you cannot learn on the job. And I completely agree, Anna. You know, for me, when I went to LBS, I started at NIFT, then I went to LBS.
Yeah.
So I thought I'll be in luxury brand management. That is where I want to be. And I was just like, देखो मैं कुछ भी करूँगी, but the one place I'll not go is at a bank, because I feel like they were really boring.
Correct.
Right? This is like a college kid going to B school and just, you know, having like very different reasons for what I wanted to do, why I wanted to do something. And then cut to, I was working at a bank for 9 years. And then I quit that and I moved back into fashion. So you really don't know what your path will be.
I know, but I think, I relate so much. Yeah, I worked in luxury, and that's what I would try to say. That, oh, people are like, oh, why are you going in your undergrad? I worked with HCL, I worked with EY, I worked with amazing luxury brands. I worked with the luxury mall, and I worked with like Bulgari and like Cartier and all of these brands, which just are larger than life. And it wouldn't have been possible if I was here. Because somewhere you get those opportunities because you belong to a place, right? So they don't really look at you as you're from an undergrad or you're from a master's. If we're learning the same things, we have the same professors, we have the same textbooks, it's not too different. It's in fact the exact same thing. Like, I've learned everything I needed to learn in my management course, right? So that's how you look at it. Like, you're learning it faster than the world. If this is the domain that you want to be in or you're inclined towards, then why do you want to waste into doing another like engineering or medical or whatever? If you know eventually this is where you want to be at, and then if you waste 3, 4, 5 years of your life doing it just because the society says it'll get you a better payout at the end, you'll be like, okay, maybe you did get the better payout, but now your life's a mess, you're not happy with it, so you eventually have to quit it, and then you're back to ground zero. So why don't you negotiate a little bit with yourself, come up with a balanced way, and then start building from there itself. So just do the things that you love to do and figure out a way to make money from it. Like, that's how I think you navigate through life at the moment. That's what I'm
Agreed. No, I completely agree. I think that's really how it should be. And in the beginning, all you should optimize for is learning. Whatever helps you learn the most, that's the right place to be, right? Everything else will follow. Your career growth, your promotions, money, all of that will follow. But you just need to be in a place where you really challenge yourself, you really grow, you really learn something new, and you learn something relevant, right? And something that a lot of people today are like, I want to be an AI because it's the it thing. But just figure out if AI is for you. It's not the it thing. There are people who are making consumer brands and they're earning a lot of money. There are people who are, like working in Boeing in marketing for Boeing, right? So you don't have to be you just don't have to stick to one role and be a part of the rat race.
I love talking to you. It's funny, I've actually made an entire video about it. Like, I have a reel on my page which talks about how AI is what these tech nerds have hyped at the moment. But if you actually look at the statistics, female-led consumer brands or brands in beauty and fashion are earning way more than these newer startups in compared to that, right? So you want to make it big. You don't make it big by the hyped stuff, because now everybody is actually entering it. And how will you make it big if you're not even passionate about it? You can work hard and hustle through it eventually. Of course you can do it. You'll do it for 2 years, you'll do it for 3 years, and then you'll just burn out and feel like, oh, this is not giving me back enough. Like, work shouldn't feel like work at the end of the day. What you do, you should do it because you can keep going in it. If you pick up something, you can always master it by hard work, but you will never go above it and be par with the people who are passionate about it, because they will do without any reward. They'll do it because they want to do it, and you can't. So just do what you like. Like, that's the best way. Don't go with the herd of people crying. There's a trend every 10 years, but you can't be that trend. You become something that's sustainable. And there are these fashion brands who are doing equally in numbers, right? That have been running for hundreds of years. It was started by somebody who believed in the vision. If they decided, no, industrialization is happening, let me start a factory, then we wouldn't have Louis Vuitton today. So, like, do what you think is best for you.
I agree. And do it for the right reasons. Like, do it for you, because it's just like how we are on social media, right? We can be another version of ourselves for only as long, right? Eventually, who we really are will come through somewhere.
Exactly.
And that's who you consistently want to be. Whether that's right or wrong in the judgment of the larger society doesn't matter. We're all wrong for someone and we're all right for someone. But at least we are our true selves, and that applies to what you're going to pick as a career option also. And again, like, don't stick to something. अगर आपने marketing में job ले ली, उसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि अब मैं marketing ही करूँगी पूरी life, मैं तो किसी चीज में जा नहीं सकती. आप जा सकते हो. अभी तो there are so many courses. You can literally be in the comfort of your home. You can upskill yourselves. You can pick something completely new. You can take, if you're really passionate, you can pick up a project in your office. You can go up to your manager and be like, listen, I'm in marketing, but I want to slowly get into tech. Can you help me make that transition? People will very likely help you in that process. And if you're obsessed about it enough, you will find a way.
Correct. And that's what I say, that innovation comes from a place of curiosity, which can't be manufactured. You can't manufacture curiosity within yourself. So the moment you, like, if somebody above you is, the only seniority that exists in the world is by experience. Anybody who's senior to you has an edge over you, that they know they're more experienced in that particular field or domain. That's it. No, nothing else is valid for seniority, and there is no sort of like barrier that should be for you to go to them, approach them, and ask for advice or ask them to do you a favor in terms where you're trying to benefit both the parties. Like, I have gotten so many opportunities just because I had the courage to, like, not think that I'm smaller than somebody and just go talk to them. And I think my college has also helped with it, because I'm in a committee which we basically call people, these CHROs, HRs, co-founders even of the companies, to come and talk with us. Now, sometimes you have to, like, cold call them, right? And maybe the brand name is big, but in your head, you're not somebody as big enough to waste the time of somebody who's a CEO of a company, right? So you have this mental barrier where you're like, it's working out. Should I call? And then you eventually realize that it's so chill. Like, they're human beings. They want to talk, and this is their job. So they're very open to talk to you. So the moment you talk about something that interests somebody, they're very open. They're very willing. And just go out there and embarrass yourself. Like, even if you get 2 shouts on your call, what's ending? They don't even know you. Like, they can't even look at you. It's just a call. So be fun and be explorative. Like, don't take things so seriously in life. It's not that serious. They're not going to remember who you are for this call. But maybe that call will make you somebody that they will remember you by, that you were somebody who they used to know. So, like, think of it as at that perspective, that it's okay. Even if you embarrass yourself, just do it. It's fine. It'll lead to somewhere.
You're very cool. Okay,
so you. This is such a fun conversation.
It is. I'm feeling so bad because we're almost at very close to your class, and I'd love to continue, but I think we have one interesting question that I found.
No, okay, I think you're misunderstanding. I had a class yesterday. Today I don't have a class.
Okay. All right, cool. Okay, then we can go on for a little bit.
Yeah. No worries.
Awesome. Okay, so I saw a very interesting question, which is job X in something which you want to do, like, or a startup, or working in a big brand. Between these two, if you were to pick something, what would your decision criteria be?
Okay, it'll be a layered answer. If you're particularly just asking me, I would always want to start something of my own, and which doesn't have to be a brand always. It is like I have content, so maybe my channel is something that I want to start on my own, because I am a person who doesn't feel good uh, when my creative ideas get suppressed, and that happens when you go into a structured environment or big brands or whatever. So if you're somebody who's very creative and have a vision, sometimes people will not understand it, so it could become a little suffocating to go with like very hierarchical structures in bigger brands. Although I would always encourage to have the experience. Like, I have interned with big companies, and it always gives you perspective, and it makes you understand how things work in their firm, so that you can also apply to it. So I would always say that experiment with it, intern with them, work with them for a little bit. But eventually I personally would want to do a startup. Although startup is also becoming like this hype these days, but there are people who would do great at jobs. Like, some people just like stability, and startups come with a lot of risks. Like, nobody's saying that it's going to be fancy all day. If you're not getting suppressed by a manager, you will get suppressed by a client after all. But at least when you come back home and you're on your bed, you think, I made progress today and I did what I wanted. So it's on you. Like, you're liable for whatever you're doing. So if you have that mindset that you can keep going regardless of whatever comes at you through the startup or through whatever brand you're building, I'm sure you will be relating to it very personally, then do it. If not, then just do whatever gives you experience. Like, that's this same thing that I said for content applies to it also. Experiment as much as possible and give yourself entirely to it. Like, I am somebody who, even as an intern, if you're calling me at 5:30, I will come. If it's optional also, I'll volunteer and I'll come. And I've gone to such places where it's like, oh, you're an intern, you don't need to come. And I'm like, no, I'll come. Because it gives you experience and it makes you explore it entirely. And when you've explored everything entirely, you understand if it's for you or if it's not for you. So you're confused because you haven't tried it. So if you're confused, then try everything. Try everything and you'll figure out what is working for you and what's like the best fit. So I would say try everything, do everything, and don't feel like you're competing. There are people who are young as you and like doing this great. Fail faster. They have failed faster than you. That's how they have an edge over you. So you also just start now and fail faster. And then you'll reach a point where you're like, now this is my sweet spot and I think this suits me.
No, I agree. I completely agree. I think just from my experience, if I can share, I was in corporate life for a very long time, right? Almost a decade. I frankly went there because I felt that at that point in time, with the financial, resources that I had, or the responsibilities that I had, or even from a career perspective, it felt like the best place to be. And my program that I joined is something that I recommend to anyone who's getting out of grad school, which is it was a graduate program. So you basically, for a span of, depending on the organization, for a span of 1 to 2 years, you transition between different departments. So for the first 2 years at Citi, all I was doing was I was moving from 6 months at ops to 6 months at consumer experience to 6 months at product to 6 months at risk. So I got to know everyone at the bank. Everyone at the bank got to know me, and I sort of understood, okay, now that I'm in operations, I know how a risk department ka person is thinking, what they're thinking, what their challenges will be. So I would sort of preempt that, plan for that, and my thinking became very 360 degree. So those are the kind of programs, especially for folks who have a very managerial kind of mindset, where they want to have like a full perspective of an organization before they decide this is where I want to be. Very, very strong programs, and a lot of organizations have these management training kind of programs that allow you to rotate between different departments. There is a lot of merit, and typically a lot of these programs are very selective. They are very accelerated programs. You'll grow very quickly. You will get in touch with senior leaders very quickly. So to your point, that's all very important, right? Because at the end of the day, it's the right kind of exposure also. And it's very, very holistic. So I think that is one thing. And second, if you're ever thinking about entrepreneurship, I think a lot of people that I have seen sadly get into the space to be a founder. To be called a founder, right? I can tell you from my experience, founder hona, actually, it's like when you become a founder, you realize it's the hardest thing that you do.
Correct.
Right? There is a manager of mine who used to say, when I was getting into this transition, he was like, see, listen, you come to the office today, and if something is not working, let's say a small bulb is not working, you just call up IT and throw a fit, and you're like, bulb nahi chal raha hai, computer kaam nahi kar raha hai, somebody will come and take care of it for you, right? You just raise a ticket and things will get sorted. If you found something, then that's your responsibility. It's on your time, it's on your money, that there's a clock that's running, right? And anything and everything that needs to go wrong will go wrong.
Correct.
Right? And even the worst, you will think, yaar, ye timeline hai, acha, 1 हफ्ते delay हो जाएगा, वो 4 हफ्ते delay हो जाएगा. So आपके हाथ में कुछ नहीं है. आप जब काम करते हो, चाहे आप कंज्यूमर में बिल्ड कर रहे हो, चाहे आप टेक में बिल्ड कर रहे हो, there are always people who are either encouraging you, more people than not who are discouraging you. So it's really not very hunky dory on the people side. It's very difficult to hire talent. You're putting in most of us are putting in all of our life savings into what we're building. So build for the right reason. because that will be your anchor on
Yeah.
days where you're like, man, why am I ignoring my family for 2
Yeah.
months? They just want to go for a chota sa chutti with me and I'm not able to like give them time for a movie.
Yeah.
You should have a purpose, and
Correct.
that will just remind you, nahi, yaar, there is something in this that you're doing right. You're doing it for the right reasons, so just stick on to this. Just like like you have to make decisions and let go of
There
certain
needs
things
to be an
sometimes.
inner drive always, otherwise you lose track of it. At some point you get
Absolutely, you
exhausted.
will give up. Really,
Yeah.
like startups, however resilient you are, however courageous you are, however strong you are, however intelligent you are, right? It doesn't matter, because
Exactly.
at the end of the day, you're dealing with vendors who know their job a lot better, who have a very different style of communicating with you. You're dealing with customers in a country like India who are so price sensitive, who want everything. अच्छा क्रीम है, ऐसे स्किन को ऐसे चेंज करती है, अच्छा ये मेरे को पिंपल तो नहीं होएगा, अच्छा मेरे को स्किन में बैलेंस मिलेगा, ग्लो आएगा कि नहीं, अच्छा कितनी की है, बस 50% डिस्काउंट है. So it's just from every corner. Yeah, you will be cornered. But what will really drive you to do the right things is, यार, if I have a purpose, and that purpose is not like कि आपको कुछ हमेशा mission driven ही करना है.
Correct.
आप कुछ कुर्सी भी बना रहे हो, बहुत मन से बना रहे हैं, मुझे सबसे comfortable कुर्सी बनानी है, right? That could be your purpose, but it should really be something that you're mad about. पागल ही होते हैं founders.
Obsession, obsession every time.
Yep.
And
this is what I wear out.
Yeah. So when I tell people that it's like, when you move to college or like the first time you move out of your city on your own, and then you realize that there were so many things which was just laid out for you at home. Like your laundry is sorted if you can't do it, you have home cooked food, and you didn't even account for all of those things when you were coming, that this will be a change of environment. And the moment you get those responsibilities, you're like, oh, I thought studying is going to be hard, or I thought competing with people in the class is going to be like rigorous. But this is like me handling how to sort my laundry, or like how to get time to
the real things in life.
Yeah, the real things in life. And that's how startups are also, that the moment you come out of from the safe space of working under somebody, you realize that everything is your responsibility now. Whatever goes wrong is going to come at you even if you've not done it. So it's just people hype it a lot, but the founder life is not as glorified. And
not
I think like the exponential rewards that people talk about, only a small amount of people are able to get there because they break through, and it's not about the idea. That's why a lot of people say, oh, idea. I think I read it also in some question, that is it about like idea or the distribution first? It's about the execution first, and it's about who you become being a founder, because you become so resilient that at this point you can deal with anything in life or anybody else in life, because everything just comes at you directly, and it's like very dynamic and holistic. So you become a person who's entirely different. So I think that's the best part about being a founder, that you start looking at life differently entirely, and that's fun. After a point, when you've actually gone through the hard stages where everybody's coming at you and everything's going down, you still put through it because you're executing for a purpose, as you said, then it becomes the most rewarding thing in life, because you start believing in yourself that, okay, eventually I'll make it work. Like whatever people are saying, they might not understand me correctly because they're not in my shoes, but eventually I'll be at some place where people will talk about me. So just focus on execution, focus on becoming that person who handles through all of it. I think that's what, ideas come and go. Even if you copy an idea, you can make crores on it, but you should know how to execute it properly. And there is no harm in copying ideas. Nothing honestly is entirely original. It's just a tweak in something which already existed in the world that we called inspiration. So nothing is entirely new. And sometimes we feel like, oh, these tech things and complicated things. You also realize those people were exposed to computers so early on. So for them, it is something that they just tweaked because it was in their environment. For us, it's very alien concept, and we think, oh, they just created out of nothing, out of thin air or dust. But they also copied some of the ideas, created a bundle of it, and then just presented a new idea to you that you call as an innovation. So just, there's no harm in copying things. Eventually, if you want to make money from it, then that should be your motive. If you want to be fulfilled, then becoming the founder and living that life should be your motive. Think about what your end goal is with whatever you're doing. And if your end goal is to make money, sometimes actually being a founder is not the best thing. There are other ways to make money. So being a founder is not about, driving a luxury car at the end of the day. The people have earned that luxury car with so much that people don't see in the background. And it's a lot of stress. A lot of stress, a lot of sacrifice, right? Like there's no sense of personal time. There is no sense of a weekend. There's no sense of a me time. And like, there is no sense of really, it's a very delayed form of gratification. Correct. If I have a fantastic day, something is going really well, suddenly there will be a problem that will crop up, right? And that's like every day. And you will feel like, okay, I'll celebrate this later. But I have to solve this, and this is what my struggle is. So you never really have a moment to yourself where you just like, man, I did something really cool and let me celebrate this, because you will always be firefighting something else. So that I think is why exactly I say, keep
पिक करो, डरो मत. अगर आपको कुछ बहुत सही लग रहा है, यार मुझे लाइफ में ये सॉल्व करना है, दैट इज व्हाट फाउंडर्स डू. लाइक वी आर सॉल्विंग समथिंग फॉर समवन. इट कुड बी 10 people, it could be 20 people. We were talking about the 100 true fans in the beginning, right? बस छोटा सा प्रोडक्ट बनाओ जो कम लोगों की प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करता है, बट उसको बहुत सही तरीके से बनाओ. एंड द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग दैट आई ऑल्सो ऑलवेज से इज कि आई एम स्टिल इन दिस जर्नी, बट वन थिंग दैट आई फील should really be my anchor other than the problem that I'm trying to solve is that I should be committed. कुछ भी हो जाए, I've told myself, यार for X years I'm not going to leave this, whatever happens, right? Yeah, it's a relationship and you're like married to it, and you're married to it more than your partner, right? So it's really like something that you're not going to leave. The high hell comes to you and you're just like, no, listen, I'm not going to leave this. So even if you have the worst days, just sleep over it. You will not know what to do. You will really not know where the money will come from. But if you're working towards the right thing, there will be a direction that will come along your way. Something will show up. You will wake up the next morning and you will have a solution. So just don't leave it. And that's exactly why I'm saying your anchor needs to be really strong, and that is who you're solving for. So for me, for example, I've had like the worst days, but then there will be somebody who will message me and say, listen, because of you, I love my height a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, I have to solve for this girl, you know. These are the kind of women that I need to solve for, and I can't let this go. So for me, genuinely, all of these women that I'm solving for are my anchor. So for example, for us, Yana, like I see a lot of petite influencers, a lot of fashion influencers who just like, here are 3 things you can do to look slim. Here are 3 things you can do to look taller. And I never allow that on Rare Reach, because I'm just like, why are you asking a girl to look slimmer or to look taller? It's a very indirect way of marketing that insecurity and doubling it up, right?
Subconsciously biasing the consumers.
Exactly. And it's wrong. Like, you are a petite influencer yourselves. Whatever we do, we cannot get taller. We can't.
And if you're insecure about yourself, then you're influencing the wrong message to people. And if they're being influenced by your behaviors, then you're actually doing the thing wrong.
Yeah.
You can't just stand in your public eye and say, oh, I am all for the women rights and I'm all for women feeling great about themselves, and then just like give hacks about it. Like, giving hacks is still fine, but you need to have that language where you're differentiating between, it's okay if you feel confident by doing this, but you don't have to do this. It's fine. Like, you can be both ways. There's no harm in figuring out ways to look a certain way if you have to, but you don't have to. Like, it's fine. It's fine to be a certain way. It's fine to just own your truth.
And I mean, one of the biggest brands, that is Fair and Lovely, they changed to Glow and Lovely. That is the power of one word, right? It's okay that you want to glow. Not everybody wants to look fairer. It's quite similar to that. All of us want to look balanced. All of us want to look our best. You know, we want our curves to be highlighted. You know, we want our body to look balanced. Whatever it is, we may want to look elongated, right? We don't want to look taller. So I think these are like, even, you know, as somebody who's building in marketing, you know, just like, how do you think about these things when there are so many people who are, by the way, asking, you know, how do you think about storytelling? How do you think about marketing? Now that these brands are approaching you, what are some of the principles that are important for you as you think about marketing for these brands?
There's so many funny brands that have come to me. Recently only there was this brand who was very related to my niche, because I have these college students who are, you know, watching me, and it was asking me to put out a piece of content which said that, oh, they make like the most number of crorepattis in the market, and I was like, I know it's a lie. Like, you don't do that. And he was like, no, you can look at the statistics and it's legally allowed statistics. I'm like, even if it's legally allowed statistics, you could say my platform is offering a 1 crore salary, but that'll be 10 lakh in hand and 90 lakhs in ESOPs or something. So like, I'm not gonna endorse that to people just because you're giving me a good amount of money. Like, even I know it's wrong, and forget about it harming my credibility or personal brand, but just for money, I'm not going to say something which is a lie. So how do you even have the audacity to come to a face of somebody who's studying in a college, who knows how sensitive of a topic placement is, and ask them to straight up lie about it just by offering certain amount of money, right? So this is, and I know that there are a lot of, like, this was done very on face, but in subtlety also a lot of things happen with influencers, and there are a lot of people who with content do it for money, and that's okay. Whatever they feel like doing with their audience. But I always have this understanding that you can't, the whole thing you're saying, storytelling is just not for one video. Storytelling is for the entirety of the string of videos that you're putting out, because you're putting out as a story of yourself, right? You're showing a part of your life. The moment you deflect it by letting other brands influence your story in a certain way which confuses people, people are going to leave. So consistency is very important, and consistency with what you believe. If the brand doesn't align with my personal value or belief systems, I'm very vocal about speaking the truth. Like, to this brand also, I was very blunt and on point, and I did not keep aback to criticize them on what they were trying to tell me. I was very blunt. I was like, forget me, I don't think you should also endorse it, because this is the biggest mishap you could do with your marketing also. So with entirety of marketing and with entirety of storytelling, it's important to be consistent in the message you're giving. The moment you start switching just for the sake of money or getting influenced, people will notice. They're not dumb. I don't think anybody watching me is dumb, or anybody is watching me because, you know, I am just somebody who's just gotten a little famous now. The moment I start planning a video, I think that, oh, what is more of a value that I can give, and how can I keep up with whatever I've done so far? Because I don't feel obliged to follow anybody who's not being consistent with their work. So if I'm not consistent with the value that I'm providing, it's a very hell of a bad day. Like, it would look that great that, oh, the page is growing so well, touch wood. But it comes with a lot of pressure. Like, every day I have to match that and then go a little bit further. And it's a lot of pressure. Entirety of my day, I keep thinking about how can I combine different things and bring more value to my page, because when you're using marketing, you can't go wrong with saying things that you're also like at a primitive stage of understanding, right? So there goes a lot of research, and there are certain days where I'm like, no, I have to put a video right now. Like, the lighting is good, the natural lighting will go, and then I'm like, no, just as I put a video out yesterday, I said slowly is the fastest way, right? That's what I believe, that give the time for yourself to research correctly, to build a good script where the value actually combines. And even if you put it in a bad lighting, it's still more value than you could have done by rushing the video. So being consistent and keeping the quality of the content, the product, the service you're giving is the key. Everything else comes along. People come along. If they see value in your content, they'll come along. If they don't see value, you improve. So take the feedback correctly and just focus on how you can be consistent with it. That's what I think.
Agreed. Yeah. I think that's actually the promise to our customer, right? And like, even content may, we have people who are watching us are consumers. So it's a promise to that consumer also, of consistency, of authenticity, of honesty, of just like continued value.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I think quite a journey so far, still starting up. Is there something that Yana today knows that perhaps the 12-year-old Yana did not know, and you'd like to tell her?
Okay. I'd like to tell her that you're exactly who you think you are. Like, keep doing what you think and don't listen to other people, and explore different fields. Like, go meditate, go join a boxing class, go drumming if you want to do. Like, don't let other people tell you this is how much you need to score. Like, go where your mind goes. Don't obstruct the flow. Don't obstruct the line of thought that your mind is creating. That is the time when you can explore the most. And that's the time when, even if people are critical towards you, that, oh, you didn't score good in a test, it's not going to matter. Like, you have no whatsoever responsibilities at the moment. So just go nuts. World is your oyster. Just go nuts. That's what I was telling.
Lovely. And I'm so glad you found it in you to finally start your content, not mired by what people are telling you, what people feel is the right way to be, what friends think, what family thinks. All of these judgments, like, they will happen. But despite that, you found your voice, and you are just on a lovely path. I think there is genuinely a certain level of emotional maturity, intelligence, just dedication that I see in you. So congratulations. I think the journey started really well. Half done, long way to go, and I hope you keep this just this passion, like this craving to learn, because that's what's going to take you a long way, and you're going to go a long way, Yana. I can see it. So
stop making me blush.
no, I just really speak. When I see something in someone, I see that spark in you. So I just have to, I think, share that with you. But again, it's been so lovely speaking with you, man. I think this has been one of the longest I've chatted on the podcast with someone, because it was just like very effortless, and I felt like I was just speaking to someone super cool. So
it was super lovely to talk to you also. Like, I didn't realize when the time went. It was, and I love that. I loved what you're doing. I think when I joined, I said yes for it at that time also. I said it to your team that I love that you've picked a niche which speaks from like your own like experiences and purpose, like that, you've seen people being harsh on themselves because of this, and it takes courage to start something where nobody else is entering, because you're not promised any sort of result out of it, and you have to create your own path to get to that stage where you make something out of it. And I think that takes a lot of courage, and it makes me so happy to see female founders like going out and making it happen. So it was really lovely talking to you.
Likewise, and thank you for those very kind words. I think big time that we solve for women, that women celebrate women in the right way. So cheers to doing that. I'm sure you're going to do that in some way, shape or form in the future as well. You already are. Loved connecting with you. We're connected now. So very glad for that. Let's keep in touch. And anything, anytime that you're looking for, like apart from the podcast, thank you everyone who's joined. But just like if you're ever looking for anything, you're considering any opportunities, anything that I can help with from my experience, founder, banking, masters, different fields, happy to help.
Thank you so much. Lovely, lovely talking to you. Lovely connecting to you in person also. We'll probably chat later as well. I'd love to have a chat.
Yes, yes, I love that too.
Yeah. And thank you everybody who joined. I couldn't read much with this, but if you have any questions, please DM me. I would love to answer. And yeah, thank you for coming. Thank you for joining. Thank you for all the love with the page also.
You deserve it. All right. Lovely. Bye, guys. Have a lovely evening. Bye, Anna.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Good night. Bye.
Good night.